Most people believe dopamine is a gift from nature, a chemical spark of pleasure that motivates us to work harder, love deeper, and celebrate life's fleeting joys. We are told that dopamine is the essence of motivation, the invisible fuel pushing us to chase success, pursue relationships, and survive the chaos of modern existence. But what if this common belief is not just incomplete, but dangerously misleading? What if dopamine is not the benevolent guide we think it is, but a cunning tyrant, a silent manipulator that has chained our modern lives to endless cycles of craving and dissatisfaction? The truth is far more unsettling. Dopamine has become the invisible master of our age, and its grip on our attention, our desires, and even our very sense of self has never been stronger. The question is not whether you are influenced by dopamine, it is whether you are already enslaved by it. Think about your daily life. The first thing you reach for when you wake up is not your own breath, not the sunlight entering your window, but the glowing screen beside your bed. A flood of notifications, messages, and headlines calls to you, and with each swipe, your brain is rewarded with a tiny pulse of dopamine. You tell yourself this is harmless, that it is simply part of the rhythm of modern living. But beneath the surface, a dangerous conditioning is at work. Your brain is learning to crave constant stimulation, to demand novelty, to refuse silence and stillness. The very ability to sit quietly with your own thoughts is being eroded, replaced by the compulsion to check, to scroll, to consume. We call this convenience. We call it entertainment. But in truth, it is the construction of an invisible prison built not of walls and iron, but of neurotransmitters and endless digital temptations. And unlike the prisons of old, this one does not confine the body, it colonizes the mind. Have you ever noticed how restless you become when your phone battery dies? Or how anxious you feel when you are left without access to constant stimulation? That is not coincidence. That is dopamine deprivation, a withdrawal from the subtle drug you have been conditioned to seek every few minutes of your day. But here is the most dangerous illusion. Dopamine is not about pleasure itself. It is not the satisfaction of eating the meal, but the restless hunger before the first bite. It is not the warmth of true love, but the compulsive urge to swipe again to see if something or someone better is out there. Dopamine is not fulfillment. It is pursuit. It is not peace. It is tension. And when this constant chase becomes the foundation of your life, you are not living, you are being lived by forces beyond your awareness. The journey of this video will take us deeper into this hidden reality. We will uncover what dopamine truly is, how it has shaped human civilization, and why, in today's hyper-connected world, it has become the most dangerous addiction of all. We will explore the abyss of consequences, fractured attention, hollow relationships, and the silent despair that grows when nothing ever feels enough. But we will also walk a different path, the path of liberation, where awareness, courage, and integration can transform this tyrant into a servant and restore our lost capacity for presence, authenticity, and inner freedom. So I ask you, are you ready to look behind the mask of dopamine to see not just the bright smile of pleasure, but the dark strings of control pulling at your every choice? If you are, then stay with me. Because what lies ahead is not just information, it is a confrontation with the invisible master that already governs your life. Dopamine is often called the pleasure chemical, but this is a dangerous oversimplification. In reality, dopamine does not give you pleasure. It gives you anticipation. It does not make you happy with what you have. It makes you restless for what you don't. Imagine a tyrant who promises you a crown of gold if you just walk one more mile. But when you arrive, he points further into the horizon. That is dopamine. It is not the crown, it is the chase. And in the modern world, the chase never ends because the stimuli never stop. Social media, fast food, video games, online shopping. Each offers a flashing lure that lights up the brain's reward system. For a moment, you feel alive, but then the hunger grows stronger, demanding more. The mask of joy hides the abyss of dissatisfaction. To understand this more clearly, picture dopamine as a prison warden. The prison is not made of steel, but of desire. Each notification, each red dot on your screen, each limited time offer from an online store is another bar in this prison. You are not chained by force. You are chained by longing. The more you obey the warden, the more he feeds you crumbs of stimulation, keeping you running on a treadmill that never stops. Have you ever opened your phone just to check one message only to lose yourself for an hour? That is dopamine tightening its grip. And this is not confined to screens. It seeps into work where endless promotions and deadlines keep you chasing recognition that never feels enough. It seeps into love where instead of cherishing the partner before you, you secretly crave the thrill of someone new. It seeps into family life where dinners are interrupted by glowing screens and conversations are overshadowed by the urge to just check something quickly. The tyrant does not care what you chase, only that you keep chasing. In ancient times, dopamine was a survival tool. It pushed our ancestors to hunt, to gather, to explore beyond the horizon. Without it, we might never have survived as a species. But in today's world of abundance and endless stimulation, this survival mechanism has turned into a source of enslavement. Imagine a thirsty traveler finding an infinite fountain. Instead of quenching his thirst, he drinks and drinks until he drowns. That is dopamine in the modern age. Ask yourself, have you ever found yourself endlessly scrolling even when you feel empty inside? Have you ever eaten more than you wanted just because the taste promised another fleeting burst of joy? Have you ever pursued success not because it fulfills you, but because you fear the silence of not striving? These are not random habits. They are symptoms of a deeper pattern, a brain conditioned to pursue stimulation without ever reaching true satisfaction. Philosophically, dopamine reveals a paradox. The more we chase, the less we find. It seduces us with the illusion of happiness, but leaves us in a state of permanent hunger. Carl Jung once wrote that people don't have ideas. Ideas have them. In the same way you do not use dopamine, it uses you. It colonizes your mind, directing your behavior like an unseen puppeteer. And the more unaware you are of its influence, the more tightly the strings are pulled. The concept of dopamine addiction is not abstract theory. It is the hidden architecture of modern suffering. And unless we learn to recognize it, we will continue to mistake the tyrant for a friend, the prison for a playground, the mask for the true face of joy. What happens when dopamine addiction is left unchecked? The consequences seep into every dimension of life, corroding our sense of authenticity, eroding our capacity for focus, and leaving us perpetually dissatisfied. At first it feels harmless, just another scroll, another video, another bite, but the cost accumulates quietly and relentlessly, until one day you realize that your life is no longer your own. Instead of making conscious choices, you are reacting to cravings, enslaved to a chemical whisper that demands constant stimulation. The distinction between a healthy life and an inflated existence becomes stark. In a healthy life, you eat because you are nourished. You rest because your body needs it. You connect with others because love deepens your soul. In an inflated life governed by dopamine, you eat to feel a surge of taste that vanishes instantly. You rest only when exhaustion crushes you. You connect with others to chase validation rather than intimacy. The authentic becomes fake. The genuine becomes a performance freedom, becomes a prison of invisible chains. This is not an exaggeration. Consider the phenomenon of doom scrolling, where individuals consume endless negative news late into the night. Rationally, no one benefits from hours of absorbing despair, but dopamine keeps you chasing the next headline, the next revelation, the next shocking twist. Or think about social media likes tiny digital tokens that mean nothing in reality, yet have the power to dictate moods, influence self-worth, and even shape identity. This is not theory, this is survival. The brain wired for primitive survival has been hijacked by modern systems of stimulation, and the price is a restless mind that can no longer be at peace. The psychological fallout is immense. Anxiety and depression rise as people find themselves stuck in cycles of wanting without fulfillment. The body, overstimulated by constant dopamine spikes, becomes less sensitive, demanding ever more to achieve the same effect, a phenomenon identical to drug addiction. Sleep suffers, relationships fracture, creativity fades. Have you noticed how hard it has become to read a book without distraction? To sit through silence without reaching for a device? To genuinely listen to another human being? Without the urge to check a screen, this is not accidental. It is the byproduct of living in a society engineered to exploit dopamine's weaknesses. Jung might say that what we refuse to recognize in ourselves turns into fate. By refusing to confront our dependence on dopamine, we allow it to shape our destiny in the shadows. Nietzsche warned that he who fights monsters must take care not to become one. In our case, by endlessly chasing stimulation, we risk becoming hollow shells, defined not by who we are, but by what we consume. Dostoevsky once wrote that the secret of a man's being is not only to live, but to have something to live for. Yet in a dopamine-driven world, the something dissolves into a blur of endless novelty, and meaning itself slips through our fingers. The societal consequences are equally dire. A culture addicted to dopamine becomes a culture unable to tolerate difficulty, unable to face suffering, unable to endure boredom, the very crucible where growth and transformation occur. Instead of building resilience, people seek shortcuts. Instead of cultivating wisdom, they chase trends. Instead of creating authentic art, they manufacture endless content designed to trigger dopamine hits in others. The result is a civilization where attention is fragmented. Authenticity is rare, and inner freedom is sacrificed on the altar of instant gratification. The contrast is devastating: authentic versus fake freedom versus prison presence versus compulsion. Without intervention, dopamine addiction leads to an existence that is not lived, but consumed, where every action is dictated not by soul or purpose, but by the restless hunger of a chemical. And once you see this pattern clearly, it becomes impossible to ignore. The stakes are nothing less than your humanity. Will you live as a free being capable of silence, depth, and authentic choice? Or will you remain a captive forever, running on the treadmill of desire, mistaking the prison for paradise? The choice is urgent, for every day you ignore this reality, dopamine engraves deeper pathways into your brain, making the escape harder, the prison walls higher. This is not a distant problem. It is here now, shaping your life in every moment you unconsciously obey the call of craving. And unless you confront it, the cost will be not just your time or your focus, but your very capacity to live a meaningful life. If dopamine has become the tyrant of modern life, how do we break free? The answer is not to destroy dopamine, for, without it, there would be no drive, no motivation, no movement forward. The solution is transformation, to shift dopamine from being your master into becoming your servant. Jung spoke of individuation as the process of integrating the unconscious into conscious life, of turning shadow into strength. In the same way, our journey begins with recognition, then moves into observation, and finally reaches integration. Recognition is the first stage. It means daring to see the problem without denial. It is looking honestly at the way your daily life is governed by compulsions you did not choose. To recognize dopamine's control is to pierce the mask of pleasure and see the prison beneath. Without recognition, nothing changes. With it, the possibility of freedom is born. The second stage is observation. This is the art of watching your cravings without being consumed by them. When you feel the restless urge to check your phone, pause and notice the sensation. When you find yourself reaching for food, you do not need pause and notice the craving. Observation is not repression, it is awareness. And awareness itself weakens the tyrant. By observing the pattern, you begin to step outside of it. You see that the urge is not you, it is a chemical whisper in the brain. And in that gap between craving and action, a new power is born, the power of choice. The final stage is integration. This is the hardest, but also the most liberating. Integration means restructuring your life so that dopamine serves meaning instead of erasing it. It means building habits that cultivate depth rather than distraction reading. Instead of scrolling, walking in silence instead of drowning in noise, creating instead of consuming. It means embracing discomfort as a crucible for growth instead of fleeing it through endless stimulation. Integration does not kill desire, it redeems it, channeling the restless energy of dopamine into pursuits that nourish rather than deplete. It transforms the tyrant into an ally. This path is not easy. You will face resistance, boredom, even fear, because silence feels unbearable when you are used to noise, and stillness feels threatening when you are addicted to motion. But if you persist, something extraordinary emerges. You begin to taste authentic authority, the quiet strength of one who is no longer enslaved by craving. You discover a silent power that does not shout or demand attention, but radiates presence. You step into inner freedom, the rarest wealth in a world of endless distraction. The question then is not whether dopamine will rule your life, but whether you will choose to reclaim sovereignty over it. Will you walk the path of recognition, observation, and integration? Or will you remain a captive of the restless chase? The choice is yours, but the time is now. Share your thoughts, your struggles, your victories in the comments below, because your story may be the spark that inspires someone else to begin their own journey toward freedom. And if this video has awakened something within you, subscribe to join a community of seekers who refuse to live as prisoners of craving.